Hey guys, welcome back. Mr. Will here. Video lesson for May 7th, 2020 for the group Every Day I'm Calculating. Now, we left off at the beginning of the week talking about systems of equations. And what we're going to do today is we're going to apply what we learned to a real life problem. Okay, so kind of hopefully we can see the application of what we've learned, maybe make it a little bit more concrete as we problem solve together. So let's get right to it. It says Mr. Torres spent $30 to buy 9.5 pounds of ground beef and chicken for a family cookout. If the price of the ground beef was $3.50 per pound and the chicken was $3 per pound, how many pounds of each did he buy? Now, we've been learning about how we can have two equations that can work together, and we can use that to problem solve. So let's check this out. Let's look at what we know. Okay, first off, we're trying to find out how many pounds of meat, of ground beef and of chicken was purchased. Okay, so we don't know that number. Okay, so right off the bat, probably what I would do is I would I would probably make some variables. So maybe the B can stand for the beef in the problem. And I could use the variable C, and the C could stand for chicken. Because it's important with these problems to really make sure that we understand what the problem is asking of us. So at the end of the problem, we should be able to say, Mr. Torres purchased this much beef and this much chicken. That's really what the question is asking. Okay, so I'm going to solve for these variables. I'm going to solve for B and I'm going to solve for C. Now, what do we know? We know that B plus C, the beef and the chicken together, is going to equal 9.5. Okay, so that would equal 9.5, or we could say 9.5. Okay, so we know that already because right up here it's $30 to buy 9.5 pounds. So I have this plus this equals 9.5. The problem is I don't know how much of each was purchased. So the other information that was given is the cost per pound. Beef was $3.50, chicken was $3. So what we can do is we can use that. Okay? We can use 350 or 3.5B for the beef. Okay? And we can use that in our equation. So 3.5 would be how much was spent on the beef, and it was 3 times C was how much was spent on the chicken. Now, if I take 3.5, I probably shouldn't have done this comma. If I take 3.5 or $3.50 times the beef, and I add it to $3 times the chicken, what would that equal? What would my total be? Well, my total would be 30 because that's how much was spent in all, was 30. And hey, guess what we just did? We just took the information from our problem and we made two equations here. B plus C equals 9.5 or 9.5. Sorry, all these dots around here. And 3.5B plus 3C equals 30. Okay, now, if we can use these two equations that are systems of equations, we can use these to solve for B and for C. Take a minute to think about how we could do that. Okay, so if you said use the substitution method, you would be absolutely right. Now, in talking with some students, they have maybe struggled a little bit with both the elimination method and the substitution method. Now, we're going to use the substitution method where we're going to plug in the value to solve for this, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the value of C, but we have to rewrite this equation before we do that. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm going to plug in my value for C here, I need this to say C equals something, right? So I'm going to subtract B from both sides, okay? Because when I subtract B from both sides, it cancels each other out. And if I subtract b on this side of the equation, what I'm left with is an equivalent equation. It's the same, but it's equivalent to c equals, and then I'm going to have negative b, because you subtracted b from both sides, plus 9.5. Now, that means the same thing, but now because I rewrote it, c equals a value, I can use this, which I've just rewrote, and plug it into my equation. So what I would have, my new equation that we can solve together, is 3.5b plus 3 times c. So it would be 3 times c, the value of c is right up here from my other equation, minus b, negative b, plus 9.5 equals 30. Okay? So this is my new equation where I have substituted in the value of c in my second equation, so that now, if you look at it, there's only one variable. And because there's only one variable now, from our substitution, we can solve this, okay? The very first step that we're going to do, whenever you see a parentheses, that's the first thing that you do. So we want to take this 3 and use the distributive property of multiplication. We're going to multiply 3 times negative b and 3 times 9.5. So I still have my 3.5b, but I'm going to add that plus, and that's going to be 3 times negative b would be negative, actually, that could just be subtracting, because it would be negative 3b, so we could just say minus 3b. Now, if you want to do plus negative 3b, it'd be the same thing. And then we do 3 times 9.5, and 3 times 9.5 would give you 28.5. That would be right. 28.5. And then that still equals 30. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to get my variable on one side of my equal sign and my constant terms on the other. So what I would do here is I have, looks like I have 3.5 minus 3b. 3.5 minus 3b would give me, that's right, 0.5b. And then I have 28.5. I'm going to try to get that on the other side of my equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 28.5 from this side. And I'm going to subtract 28.5 from my other side. And 30 minus 28.5, that's going to give us, that's right, 1.5. Okay, I kind of ran out of room here, sorry. So that, when we subtract here, that cancels each other out, okay? And what it's going to do is it's going to equal 1.5, okay? Now let me erase this just so it looks a little bit cleaner. I'm running out of room, okay? So here's what I've simplified it all the way down to. Now, when we get to this point, what are we going to do? Well, we have to do the inverse operation to get that variable by itself. So I'm going to do 0.5 divided by 0.5, and that cancels out or leaves you with 1 or b. And on this side, I have 1.5 divided by 0.5. 1.5 divided by 0.5 would give me, that's right, 3. So my answer for b would be b equals 3. Okay? Now, pretty busy, a lot of steps, but I think if we could take it step by step, we can do this. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we can take this value of 3, and now I'm going to change my color so I don't get it too confusing, back up to here, where b plus c equaled 9.5. So if I have b, which is 3, plus c, we still don't know the value of c, but we know that 3 plus c equals 9.5. So what would be the value of 9.5. Well, we could subtract 3 from both sides, and we're left with C equals 6.5. How about that? So we have just figured out how much meat Mr. Torres bought. He bought 3 pounds of beef and 6.5 pounds of chicken. Now, I would like you to work through these, okay? There is a one page, okay? There are going to be some questions about the problem that we just did together. And then there's going to be a second page where you're going to have to do some reading. Please read the information that is on the page. Try to think about it, process it, and then there is a reflect question. I want you to really take your time and show that you've spent some time to really think about and try to make sense of these systems of equations with your answer today. Not a whole lot that you need to write today, but I need you to be thinking, okay? Work hard, ask questions. I'll see you back here tomorrow.